Hello, my name is Catherine Krug. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm presenting today for the National Leadership Society through University of Phoenix, the Better World Project, Sharing the Project, the last component in the Advanced Leadership course. I'll be going through the questions one by one and providing my responses. The questions will be here located on the screen, as well as the responses that I'll be giving. So the first question, what was the goal of your Better World project? The goal of the project was to combine forces with different entities and different disciplines within the Southern Indian Health Council to develop a therapeutic counseling group for domestic violence perpetrators, most specifically perpetrators in rural San Diego who are attached or affiliated in some way to the rural and indigenous communities out in the East counties. So, rural and indigenous communities in eastern San Diego face unique challenges in addressing the domestic violence issues that may or may not come up. One of the biggest uh, barriers to treatment happens for the perpetrators because there's really scarce resources. Usually, those resources are broken up by symptoms, so maybe anger management, and there's not a lot of programs that address the perpetrator as a whole person, and then also programs that take into consideration any court orders for specific treatment. So, our group set out to develop a counseling group that could meet the needs of the community in terms of their rural and indigenous barriers, also the needs of the community because we're working with perpetrators only, and then again to meet the needs of the perpetrator as a whole person, not necessarily just maybe the avenue of the anger management. So we believe that violence can sometimes be a maladaptive coping strategy that people have, an old survival mechanism, and that with appropriate support, individuals can heal and develop healthier coping strategies to break free from the cycle of abuse, even if they are the perpetrator. So our project, I explained a little bit about what our goal was. We basically had to complete an application for the County of San Diego Probation Department. What that looked like was an extensive application that required significant planning, policy, and procedure development on the end of the company, our end, so that we could submit documentation and appropriate program structure to the County of San Diego to show that we could meet the standards and objectives for what they were looking for. Because this group is sometimes a court ordered uh, part of treatment for perpetrators, there were a lot of different points that we had to meet in order to be considered for hosting this group and then maintaining the records and being available for audits. So we had to set up an entire program around being able to receive these clients and perform the duties of the group. So not only do we do that, we also met the application requirements to be able to provide drug screenings through our company, and then we also developed a way for San Diego County Probation Department to be able to come into our groups and observe, and not only that, to be able to audit our charts. So our group not only got the application, completed the application, and whatever went into that process back and forth with the county to make sure we were going to have an application that would be considered. On the back end, we are also simultaneously running internal measures to make sure when this program started running, we had the staff and the policy and procedures to match what we were going to do. For instance, having a third party come in and audit a counseling group really ran into maybe some confidentiality and some privacy issues. So we had to work a lot of that out just to be able to complete the application before we submitted it. So it was quite a significant amount of work. Who was involved and who was impacted? Well, the project involved employees from the Southern Indian Health Council. The executive management team was also highly involved, our adult behavioral health department, and then the San Diego probation department. From there, the small group that we had, we were able to complete the application and do that back end work of developing the policy and procedures. The group that's really impacted by our program are the folks who are considered perpetrators and are court ordered for treatment who reside in the county of San Diego. right now that is also very specifically for folks who are born male. So we do have some language that potentially, if somebody identified male, we might be able to incorporate them. But because of the nature of how the court orders read and then our contract with the county, unfortunately, it caused us to have to be very specific. But right now, that is who we're targeting for our groups. We hope that once the men's group has started and it's rolling, it's producing some results, that we could get more flexibility and maybe offer this group to women, for example, and then maybe even a non-binary or a more aligned group with some folks who might not um, fit into either one. Right now, it's specifically males. Where did the project take place? You know, most of the work that we've done, the majority of the work that we've done on this project has been electronic. The Actually, everybody on this project does not work in the same office, so we're spread out throughout the state of California, from San Diego all the way up to past Sacramento. And so we did all of our communication electronically, and then the groups for the program, the perpetrator domestic violence groups, are being held virtually. We also anticipate that any audits done by the County of San Diego and any County of San Diego representatives coming into our groups to check and see our materials and what we're doing, that'll also be electronic. Why did we decide on this project topic? To be honest, it came down to a few things. Ultimately, why I chose to work on this topic for the project is because I happened to be doing this project coincidentally when I started working on this portion of the work for the National Leadership Society. Um, the reason why the the company I work for decided to move forward with this project is because they had previously had this group with the County of San Diego, and it's unclear what happened, but we lost our status as being an approved site. And so then we had some interest in people looking into this group, and due to changeover in staff, we never realized actually we couldn't do this group. So we had been developing an interest list and doing some trainings and kind of getting the ball rolling on starting a group for perpetrators, without realizing that in order to take the court ordered folks, not the self referring, but the folks that are actively seeking treatment because they have a court order that they have to meet, that they have to go to an official approved site. And so that's when we realized we had all these really awesome intentions, but it was never going to work because we had to be approved first. And so then that's when our company decided to go ahead and invest on getting approved. And then we sent someone to get training and realized that the application was way more than just being maybe necessarily qualified, that we really needed to have an actual program for this. And so then that's how it became a bigger project that had to be managed, and it ended up on my desk. So I am the supervisor for the woman who was trying to start this group. And so her and I had decided to go ahead and move forward with the group without realizing we needed this application process completed. So when she realized that, it kind of made a full circle and came back to me. And serendipitously, that happened to be a time when I was working on this and trying to find a project that I could use to do these reflective pieces. And so through a combination of those things, that's how we ended up on this project. By and large, what we find is that there's not a lot of programs for perpetrators out in the community. Again, it's more segregated into maybe symptoms, individual therapy for your maybe depression and anxiety, anger management groups, and it can be piecemealed together. At the same time, you have folks that are being court ordered to find programs that incorporate all of those things. And in rural East County, San Diego, it can be really difficult to get to these groups in person. And especially when you're looking at some of the folks that we service through our company in rural San Diego, that's a very large expense as well. Driving an hour and a half into the city, going to a group, the gas, perhaps being hungry, going back, that's a large trip. So we were really looking at reducing barriers to the folks that we're already serving in the location that we're at in Eastern San Diego. So, what challenges did we face along the way? Communicating with the County of San Diego was not easy. It was a process that we had to learn. We also struggled sometimes to get whole information. So, we would get maybe bits and pieces because, again, we're communicating with a third party. It's all electronic. We didn't do a lot of phone calls. So it was kind of like, well, you didn't ask, well, you didn't tell. And so it can be a little sticky. That's not on purpose. It's just the process of communicating that way. And so we found a couple times that we were really relying on some answers that we weren't getting. And so that bogged the process down a little bit. At the same time, due to confusion in the application process, there were several times that maybe we had to ask redundant questions because it wasn't clear. So the communicating electronically was interesting. Um, Organizing the project was a little bit easier internally. Communicating internally was not as bad. We have a couple systems in place that we already use to communicate, and then we used an electronic project management that I kind of developed in process of this project because I realized we were delegating things, but we didn't have a way to track it, and so we just used Adobe PDF and kind of made it work for project management. And so that's something that I do think I would continue to use to stay on track with things. But a big challenge was that communication with a third party entity that's not really a part of our company. They don't have the same standards, rules, regulations, or policies. And so just trying to figure out what maybe they expect and how does that align with what we have here. And then at the same time, not maybe in the crisis of not understanding, sending too many emails and maybe getting confused. So in the future, I do think if we had extensive communication and project that we had to do with third party companies, one of the things I'd probably recommend is an official way, an official electronic communication system, as opposed to just things we kind of put together with tools we already had. I think an official communication system would be great. So the outcomes for this project, our application was accepted and approved at the highest level, meaning we can provide the maximum amount of services, and we were approved as a site that can perform the drug screenings. So that means, the highest amount of services that are court ordered to somebody without them being maybe placed in a higher level of care, we can do that. So if they have to come in and get drug tested every week, they've got to go to group every week, they need somebody to write a report every week, somebody's auditing, we can do all that. We established the new program. We have the policies and procedures in place. All of our documentation was approved internally, and we have a full system ahead for that. Our group format was also approved by the county, so we got permission, for example, to run this group fully virtually. Most groups do have an in-person option, and we have officially accepted our first two clients. And actually, as of this recording, May 2025, we have about four clients. So the group is going okay. And so we'll see. It was definitely worth the work, even if we just get one referral, but having four is great. We're hoping that we're going to see people actually stay through the program. What we don't want to see is people sign up and then maybe fall off because of that court order. We're hoping that that keeps people engaged. The program is 52 weeks as ordered and as recommended. And so we're really hoping that the folks that are signing up are going to stick through the 52 weeks. So in conclusion, the storytelling options that I chose was to do this recording in the PowerPoint, and I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube. I'm also going to take the same PowerPoint slides, break them up a little bit, and put that in a blog post on the medium.com, which is one of the options for the assignment. I selected these options and I mostly did that for privacy. At my company, I'm not necessarily allowed to align myself with a company on social media or to post anything that I've done or discuss the company really in any way. So when I post the information to medium.com, for example, I'm going to be removing the company's name. Another reason why I chose these is because I particularly don't actually like to I like my own privacy as well. If my company didn't have that policy, I more than likely would never interact with the company that I work for. in social media or anything like that. I just really do not like social media. I don't like making videos. I don't like posting things. And so I chose the two that I chose specifically for my own privacy. I really, really do not like having to put things out there. If I thought that, my company would benefit from the advertising, or if I thought we had done something in our project that I guess would be for the whole community and be received in a way that would drive maybe interest to the group or something like that, I guess I could see the benefit. But because of the sensitive nature of the group and really what we're trying to do is attract the rural East County indigenous population, which is very specific, my company doesn't necessarily allow us to advertise like county wide or California wide. So, um, anyway, there's a couple reasons why I chose the two that I did. So, what steps do I need to complete for the storytelling option? For the first one, I didn't really have to do much. I already have a YouTube. One of the things I'm going to be doing is sending the link in private, so I'm not actually going to make the video public. And then what steps do I need to complete for the storytelling option 2? That's the medium.com. I created an account. I'm going to post, and then again, I'm going to take off any real identifying information. I'm going to see on medium.com, how anonymous can I be, and definitely not putting the company name in there. So, again, my name is Catherine Krug. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. This project that I completed was the Better World Project, and what I was looking at with our our project management team was creating a program and a group counseling that could meet the needs of rural East San Diego indigenous population. It was an enormous task to just complete the application. I'm glad that it went well, and our team is really happy to see some interest in the group and that things are moving. So I'm happy to report these things in this project, and I look forward to the commentary and receiving the grade. Thank you.